Brandon Kellum asked me earlier today who we were covering this week, and I sent him the band name, and he's like, "Did you just punch the keyboard randomly?"
Did you tell him it was my fault?
Oh yeah,
Dude, it was 100%.
I blamed
on
all
you.
of it on you. I was like, "This is what happens when we let Geoff pick the bands."
Is that what you told him?
That's exactly what I told him. Word for word. I can show you a transcript if you'd like.
I believe you.
And if you believe that Dan has a transcript of exactly what he said, then you are ready for this episode of Discography Discussion. I am Joe. That is Dan. That is Geoff. And what band are we talking about, Geoff?
Vildhjarta.
This will be a pop quiz later for those of you that are reading it right now.
Can you say that for me one more time?
I'll try. Vildhjarta.
Vildhjarta.
So where did this band come from? Because Lord knows I have no idea.
I think Sweden.
My love of World of Warcraft. That's where this band came from.
So World of Warcraft and Sweden.
Yes. His love of World of Warcraft, I think, is right next door to Sweden.
Yeah, I mean, there's, hell, it started it rekindled my love affair with In Flames back in the day because Jesper was such a big fan of WoW as well. But yeah, they had this whole like viral marketing thing where there's a character that they could not pronounce properly because their heavy accent, which is Thrall, who's a badass orc. So they ended up saying Thull all the time, and it just kind of became like this meme amongst WoW people, and it just became a joke. And then I started listening to their music, and I'm like, holy shit, they're really good. And I had stopped playing WoW a long time ago, but I still listen to these guys because they're pretty badass.
They definitely reek of Meshuggah and bands of that nature.
I did
is there something wrong with that?
I did at one point mention they sound like if Meshuggah was taking a shit. It would sound something like this. I'm not saying the band is shit.
Oh, you told me that it was. You said if
it sounds like if Gojira and Meshuggah had a love child together.
Yes, and that's awesome to me.
Yeah, but that was after I'd only listened to 3 seconds of audio. So the coming to the taking a shit part hadn't developed fully yet.
Damn.
But that's okay.
Well, before we get into the Swedish death metal bands taking a shit, I'm going to take this time to say thank you to everyone that is listening to this podcast. Thank you for subscribing. If you are not a subscriber, you can find everything Discography Discussion at discussmetal.com. We are on Google Play. We are on iTunes. We are on Stitcher. We are on TuneIn Radio. So if you have an Amazon Echo product, you can say to it, Alexa, play the latest episode of Discography Discussion, and she will. We're also on Facebook and on Twitter at Discuss Metal. Be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe, and Dan is going to tell us all about 5-star reviews.
We love 5-star reviews here at Discography Discussion. Let me tell you, the more 5-star reviews that we receive, the more notable we become as a podcast, and the more searchable we become. And that's really important because we really want you guys to be able to find us whenever you type in something like metal podcast. Let's say you hear 30 seconds of a podcast, hopefully ours, and you say, man, what was that podcast? It was a metal podcast. The more 5-star reviews we get, the easier it'll be for you to find us if you type in something like metal podcast. However, if you don't have a strong opinion of us, let us know that too. You give us whatever kind of review you think we deserve. We received the following Facebook Messenger message from Derek Smith on Friday. He says, yo fellas, about 80% into the Tourniquet episode, and I'd have to say this is one of my top 5 all-timers of the 100s or the hundreds of podcasts I've heard. Props to you and way to go. Well, thank you very much, Derek Smith.
Thank you, sir.
We really appreciate that, and we're glad to have you as a listener. And
man, I wish I was on the Tourniquet episode.
Yeah, that's all right. We called up our buddy Vaughn from Perth, Australia.
He's kind of like the Australian Geoff.
He's great. I got something to tell you. We're hiring Vaughn full time.
Sweet.
I know this is an awkward time to bring this up, but you know.
I was bummed because I wanted to talk about my love of weird ass metal from Australia, since I know he would probably know who Ni Avildiscaris is, since you guys don't.
Yeah, we're not talking about whatever that is you just said.
We are talking about
it's another band we
Vildhjarta.
can't. Okay, here's the trick. If we ever are covering a band and we can't pronounce it, there's a good chance I'm the one that picked the band.
That's the only chance. So anyway, thank you very much, Derek Smith. We really appreciate your feedback.
Absolutely.
And, definitely hit us up anytime. I did respond to that message already. So if you're listening to this, again, thank you. Another big thank you goes out to Dave Cassidy, who is supporting us on Patreon. We appreciate you, Dave, and we love you, man. Cannot wait to game with you on the 24-hour gaming marathon that's coming up on November 4th.
Yeah, tell me all about that.
Yeah, so on November 4th, the Discography Discussion crew, myself, Geoff, Dave, our Patreon supporters.
I'm here too.
Yeah, and Joe. Joe's coming too. We're all coming, and we're going to have a good time. We're going to play video games for 24 hours. Hopefully, we can all stay awake that long. And we are basically doing this to raise money for local children's hospitals here in St. Louis. And we actually have a link on our page. Whenever this podcast comes out, there'll be a link to the fundraising page where you can actually donate to us. So think of it like a walkathon. You're basically sponsoring us to play games for this long, and it's all going to a really good cause. This is not money that's going into our pocket. If you would like to put money into our pocket, we also have a Patreon page. If you go to www.patreon.com/discussmetal, you can check out some of the perks that we have for contributing to Patreon. All said and done, let's get to the elephant in the room. I already forgot how to pronounce this band's name.
Hey, you. Do you like the Tales from the Crypt series? Do you like spooky things in general? Then check out the Good Evening Kitties podcast. That's Good Evening Kitties podcast. GOODEVENING KIDDIES podcast. Each week, I'll review a new episode from the TV series The Tales from the Crypt. Find me on Podbay, Podbean, or iTunes. That's the Good Evening Kitties podcast. Check it out today.
All right, so Geoff.
Vildhjarta.
Vildhjarta.
Hey, Joe's got it.
Do I still not have it?
That's what happens when you're
Vildhjarta.
a vocal major and you're required to pronounce words correctly.
Vildhjarta. And I'm actually Scandinavian roots. That's horrible.
That shows in the attitude sometimes, I'm telling you.
Yep.
Hey-o!
Oh, history. I thought I kind of gave some of the history lesson already. I mean, what really got them started was their love of World of Warcraft and their inability to pronounce Thrall. It just became this huge phenomenon. And I don't think people realize how many WoW players there are out there in the world and how big of there's millions of people that play it, and then there's tons of metalheads that play it as well. So it all works out. And it started, I guess, what was it?
Swedish death metal band started, I think, in 2009 with their debut EP, Omnislash. That sound right?
Yeah, Omnislash.
Which is a reference to Final Fantasy VII.
Yep. Yes, it is.
Which, good luck finding it. I was not able to.
This is great. Yeah, I couldn't find this one either. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to listen to this one.
Yeah, I'm there too. I couldn't find it. It's before that was self-released.
Okay.
And then I think it goes to Mastodon.
2011.
Yeah.
Their only studio album to date.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other one's an EP after this, but it looks like I'm going to have a cat come hang out with me.
Cool.
Well, lead the way, Geoff. This is all you.
It's not hard to figure out why I like these guys. I mean, I'm kind of a broken record. This is a cover-to-cover album. It's fantastic. There's a couple of standout tracks that I like. Traces and probably Deceit are probably my two favorites. I know they're not the most popular. I think that's Shadow and Dagger, I think, are the ones that get the most radio play. Oh, there's a cat.
I don't know, dude. Give me some of that Eternal Golden Monk, and I'm a happy guy.
Yeah, that one's really good too, man.
It suffers from the stereotypical gent sludge in places.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of the gent involved in here.
Just say
There's
D-Gen.
one-
You guys sound like assholes when you say it is Gen.
There's I can't remember exactly what they say, but there's some part in Eternal Golden Monk that I really dig the lyrics. They say, I know, holy shit, lyrics coming from Geoff. I know.
That's a first.
It's
Second,
they
third.
Well, it's because it kind of hits home for me because I'm a little a perfectionist, and they say, once you strive for perfection, there's only one way left to go, and that's down. That's probably not exactly what it's not verbatim what they say, because I don't follow the lyrics quite as crazy as Dan does, but man, that just totally nailed it for me, because that's if anybody who's a perfectionist, you kill yourself anytime that you're not perfect. And that song was really good because of that. I really actually dug lyrics for a change on a song. So yeah, that's a really good song too.
Well, so what I liked about this album that was striking to me was obviously, yeah, you've got kind of a technical death metal meets D-Gen kind of modern band. I would actually even call this deathcore, even though that's like a dirty word. It definitely has that influence of just spastic time signatures, really sludgy breakdowns, guttural death metal vocals, high pitched shrieks thrown in there. And it really hits you like an oral assault. It's there's a lot going on at once, and you're not going to be able to digest it the first time you listen to it. It definitely is a blender of different influences. I hear a lot of Meshuggah. In the more atmospheric sections, I definitely hear Gojira in there, and honestly, the production quality is really, really, really punchy and in your face, and I like that. I like that the record just kind of hits you coming out of the gate, and just a lot of weird stuff going on here. A lot of dissonance thrown in there. A lot kind of a permeating atmosphere is all over each of the songs, and the band is really crazy with their time signatures. Some of this shit had to have been near impossible to pull off in studio.
It was definitely mathcore. At times.
Was. I mean, definitely 100% rock solid. My favorite track on this record is "The Lone Deranger," which is the last song.
The last song, yeah, that's a good song too. The whole damn thing's good.
Right, because on Deceit before that, things had kind of slowed down a little bit, and on the Lone Deranger, it just all kicks back in full force and really carries the album home for you. It really did really great for this album, and I'm a little disappointed that this was their only main release. It looks like they haven't done anything in a few years.
So was this an independent group, or did they?
No, this was on Metal Blade, dude.
Yeah, this is Metal Blade.
Mm-hmm. So one record with an EP on each side, and they haven't done anything for a few years. I mean,
right. Well, they've been every 6 months they're hinting at stuff that they've put out. They'll release little snippets on YouTube. But yeah, I think these guys are. I haven't looked into it too closely, but I think they're almost like a studio band. Mainly because I don't know how the hell you'd play some of this shit live, for starters. Consistently,
it's possible, man. Meshuggah does it every night.
Yeah, but they're kind of
Opeth also.
Yeah,
Opeth's not this crazy, but yeah.
But there's not a ton of people that can do what that Meshuggah does night in, night out. I mean, they're very special, being able to consistently do that.
Absolutely.
But there's stuff out there. I hope that there's something more coming. I mean, I love these guys way too much for just to be the 2 EPs and a full-length album. There's got to be more coming. And like I said, with the few random hints that they give, I think there is something coming. One other thing that I really dig that we didn't hit on quite yet is I like the fact that there's dual vocalists.
Yeah, you could really hear that too. Each vocalist is extremely good at what they do. Instead of one guy trying to master two different styles. I mean, I've heard it in other bands before, but there's
Christian
definitely a
from Scar Symmetry.
Yeah,
he's another one of those guys that I guess now he's in Solution 45, but
he's in a ton of bands.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, as far as his main bands, those are Solution 45 is his main thing right now, I think. But yeah, not many people can pull off what he does and be able to have everything. But I actually like the dual vocalists and the different, that they're both bringing something different to the table. I really, really dig it.
Yeah, and I got a little bit of a space vibe off of this too.
Yeah.
It just seemed very, very out in the atmosphere. It could just be those pretty stars through the trees, But no, I don't know. This record was very melodic while still beating me in the head with a tire iron, and I enjoyed that experience for some reason.
Yeah, well, you're hitting on exactly what I love about metal. I want it to be beautiful and brutal at the same time, and that's what draws me to bands like Vildhjarta. They kind of run the gamut. I like things that are beautiful, but I like things that that kick the shit out of you too. So
sure,
they're perfect.
So moving on to their second release, Thousands of Evils. So this is an EP, but it's got 8 songs on it, so it's like basically an album.
Yeah.
It even has an intro. I mean, if you have an EP and it has to have an introduction song, I mean, I found this one to actually be much heavier than the previous. I know it's not called Mastodon, but let's just call it Mastodon. But yeah,
it's something like that. I don't know how to pronounce it. Mastodon.
Yeah, dude, I'm at a loss on how to pronounce any of these names, especially on this record.
Yeah, lots of Swedish, man.
Yeah, and so I did enjoy the music. Could have done without the 2.5 minute intro track, but it's all good. I feel like the band really kicked it off on their second song on this, which I really can't pronounce. It's like Linger. I'm not even gonna try. Longsmadon. Sure, that sounds good.
I think.
I like that it says Dan at the end. Yeah, but I feel like that song just really kind of comes in and bludgeons you, and I felt like there was a little bit more focus on heaviness here and technicality, which has made it sound a little bit more sterile, I think, than the previous record. But I did appreciate the step up in heaviness with this record, and I think that they just. I think they're like really honing their craft, because despite the songs being more aggressive, they're not necessarily more interesting than the previous record. I almost feel like they just kind of felt like we need to beat the shit out of everyone.
It's okay.
This type of music is basically just how can we be rhythmic and pounding. I mean, I don't ever have a lot to say. I mean, it's melodic in places, it's heavy in places, but for the most part, my guitar is down in F sharp and I'm just, plunking it like a mountain djembe or something. I get it, but it doesn't stand out for me.
Just not your thing.
Oh, it's fun to listen to, but it's kind of like listening to, it's like listening to butt rock. Sometimes I listen to it because it doesn't require any thought. I kind of feel the same way about.
Well, this requires a lot of thought. At least to make it does. I mean, I do admit that the songs didn't leave a super lasting impression on me. And I think that's just more because of the brevity of it all. When we're looking at in an hour and a half of obtainable music, and not even really that. I have heard bands' albums that are like longer than this band's discography. Soul of the Sun.
Yes.
But like,
we got a 7-hour album coming out eventually from them. So we'll see how that goes.
That's all you, man. You can have that one.
I don't even know if I can handle that.
So
I mean, I'm a marathon man, but I don't know if I could do that.
So this band didn't really have like a super long discography to sustain a full discussion. I wish there's more that I could say about it, and I do really like it. I think the band is definitely talented, and I would like to hear more albums, for sure. So we're kind of hoping out for that. But I thought that with the extra time, maybe we could do a little bit of an update. There's a couple of bands that we've talked about in the past that have released new albums since we talked about them.
Do tell.
Geoff, can you guess which one I'm talking about mainly?
The Contortionist.
Yes. The Contortionist has a new album out.
Is this going to be a secret double feature?
Well, it's not really a double feature. I just thought we could just, do little updates like this every now and again. They have an album out this year called Clairvoyant.
Yep, and if you're clairvoyant, you would know that they went straight to prog rock.
Yes, they did. In the footsteps of Opeth before them.
Yeah, in this instance, I know we're all metalheads, but I actually I'm okay with this step. I don't like it as much as I like Language, but if you go back and listen to our Contortionist episode, there's a real sentimental connection for me and Dan to that album. So that's probably going to be a big part of it. But you want to just talk about chillaxing. I mean, just put it on. Clairvoyant is a great album to just chill to, man.
Yeah, it's very much, I feel like, in the same vein as Language, or at least in the more the softer parts of Language.
In the softer.
It's just so, like, between
edges of Language.
Between Clairvoyant and Language, they released kind of an updated version of Language called Language Rediscovered Edition. And I feel like the rediscovered songs, like the songs that we have on Clairvoyant, are like a little bit more in line with that.
Right.
And so I thought that was really cool, and I very much enjoyed it. It's definitely still got that spacey theme to it. It's still very relaxed, and honestly, I just kind of feel better about everything when I listen to it, which is all I can really ask for with the Contortionist.
So I haven't heard this yet, but just getting my first taste of it now, it reminds me of that first time sitting down listening to Deliverance Damnation. You mentioned Opeth, you mentioned the prog rock. It sounds like they just kind of slowed down, which when you're making music, sometimes you slow down out of habit or out of reaction. It's almost like you're saying, okay, we need to be tighter, we need to be more focused as a group, and usually the first instinct is slow down a little bit. But so far, it sounds like the Contortionist.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. It's still them. It's easy to tell. I mean, if you're a fan of Contortionist, especially if you listen to Language, I mean, it's easy to tell that everything on Clairvoyant is brought to you by the Contortionist.
So what is your album review so far, Dan, of Clairvoyant?
Well, I mean, like I just said, it was definitely a step in the slower direction, the more proggy direction. And it's weird because normally I'm really pissed off when this happens. Like when a band really slows down to a halt and goes in this kind of up its own ass kind of direction.
But with the Contortionist, you expected it.
Well, first of all, they've been up their own ass since Exoplanet, so that's fine. I'm used to that, and I love it anyway. So I don't think they necessarily had any delusions of like mainstream appeal. This is actually in a lot of ways less sellable than something like Intrinsic or Language. It's more this sounds more to me just like more like what they wanted to do, because I think at this stage in a band like this career, the really the sellout thing to do, or the not as mainstream thing to do, is to do what they're doing now. Whereas if they were going to sell out, they would just put out a rehash of one of their old albums. It's almost like we a lot of the times in metal, we all praise when a band returns to their roots, but like I feel like in a lot of cases that's just to like make that month's rent. Like let's go back and play a style that is very reminiscent of what we had done before. I feel like that's kind of more of a sellout, whereas this is I think this is cool. I think this is unique, and it's going to be interesting to see in the future, like how far out they actually end up drifting.
Yeah, I mean, we were making predictions before Clairvoyant came out off of the first couple of singles. Mm-hmm. And my thought is they were good at the time was that they were going to go, almost mainstream rock, and they didn't. I mean, it's just straight up prog rock.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, which I was
nothing
worried
catchy on here.
Yeah, I thought they were not necessarily sell out, but I just thought that was the direction that they were going to go. And I'm glad, I like prog rock, so I'm perfectly fine, with this album. I think it's fantastic. I think if I hadn't have heard any of their previous stuff, I still would really, really enjoy it. I think I'd be surprised if I went backwards in their discography. If I heard Clairvoyant first and then heard everything else.
Sure.
I mean, there's a couple of things on Language, that I would have thought, okay, well, that sounds like them. But as soon as you go back to like Exoplanet and stuff like that, I'd be going, holy shit.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
that'd be a pretty big jump. But I think Language is a really good album, a really good transitional album for them.
Oh, it is.
Because
it really is.
Intrinsic and Exoplanet are kind of like a nice two set. They complement one another. Language, I think even if you were listening backwards, I think Language would still bridge the gap. It's perfectly placed in that sense. And so I really enjoyed this quite a bit, and I just felt like we needed to mention it. That we've wondered kind of over time, what do we do whenever a band puts out an album that we've already talked about? And that was one I definitely wanted to make sure I hit on. I think I said there were a couple of bands, but the more I look at the previous episodes, I'm thinking there was just the one.
Well, no, I think the other thing that you were thinking of was the Syra or Kyra, or however you pronounce it.
Yeah, because we were talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other one that you're thinking of, and that's really just like an ancillary In Flames, and I say that in the fact that it literally is in ancillary In Flames. If you listen to In Flames now and you listen to Jesper's new band, I'm just gonna say that
which one's the real In Flames? Yeah,
I'm crushed by both in a bad way.
Yeah,
I was so I'm really, 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 really disappointed. Yeah,
I mean,
but that's just because like we were talking about, we were hoping they'd go back to the roots, and they're going another direction, which is cool for them. I'm glad that they're, I'm glad for them, and it seems like they're getting a lot of good fanfare, and a lot of people like it.
Sure.
I need to listen to it more, I guess, is really what I'm saying. It's really jarring because I was expecting one thing and I got something else.
Absolutely.
So, especially after all the talk that Jesper's been doing, I was like, okay, yeah, we're going back to our roots. We're going to have a badass.
Yeah, I mean, he recently said In Flames should change their name, and then to put out what he put out is it, I don't think it's like, I don't think that the Sea Hydra album sounds like Battles, but it's definitely like, it's hard to explain. I like their singer's voice a lot more than I like Andrew's singing voice.
Oh yeah,
if that's any consolation, but
yeah, that's because the guy he's got pipes. There's no question about it. It's just not the type of pipes we were expecting to hear. But I'm kind of curious, if there's anybody out there listening to us, listen to Letter to Myself, which that's the new album, and see if you guys feel the same way we do, and then let us know what you think, because I was super pumped, super stoked, and I only gave it one listen through, and I haven't listened to it again because I was super disappointed.
Yeah.
Actually, you want to know what I did? I went back and listened to KSAD.
Oh, there you go.
That's what I did. I was like, I need something to kick some ass.
Right. Well, we've got a couple of really cool shows coming up. And I apologize, guys, that this episode isn't as long as the other ones have been, but it's just kind of one of those weeks. But I can let you know that we definitely have some really exciting stuff coming up. We've got Jared Montague formerly of Taproot on next week. He's going to be talking with us about Metallica a little bit. And I know we already talked about Metallica, but we're going to try to maybe cover some ground that we didn't cover before, and just kind of get Jared's take on it, because we didn't have that last time. And he's actually got a new book that he'll be talking about. That he's let me read a little bits and pieces of it, and definitely good stuff. We can't wait to get together and talk to him. And then after that, we're actually going to have Jason Wisdom of Death Therapy on, which we talked about Death Therapy was all the way back in episode 9.
Episode 9.
Yeah, that was a cool episode, and we were really excited about Death Therapy. And after talking to Jason on Facebook Messenger, it's looking like we will be getting together with him to talk about Living Sacrifice, which, if you didn't know, Death Therapy and Living Sacrifice are currently over in Europe on a tour. So we'll be talking to Jason as soon as he gets back. We're right here.
We'll be here waiting to record.
We will be. So yeah, we've definitely got some cool stuff coming up. We've got Industrial December that we're prepping up for. We're going to do Industrial the entire month. And yeah, I couldn't be more stoked about that. Geoff seems pretty stoked.
Oh, I'm more than stoked.
Joe's remained delightfully indifferent. Which
He's
is
like,
good.
I got to listen to more of Jeff's bullshit music. That's what he's
no, dude. Industrial is right up my alley. Industrial's the style that I don't get to listen to when I'm around Dan, because it's just slightly below the bar of heavy that he's always like, man, I don't want to listen to Zayo.
Okay,
oh, hey, speaking of Zayo, Zayo has a new EP coming out at the beginning of this month called, I believe it's called Pyrrhic Victory. Is that right? I don't know.
I think so.
Probably.
Can we get Scott Mellinger's
You're the Zayo expert
on
here,
that?
so I'm defaulting to you.
No, he already told me what it was called a long time ago, and I think it's Pyrrhic Victory. Anyway, that is going to be sick. It's 4 songs that were not included on the Well-Intentioned Virus, and I have already ordered my 10-inch vinyl.
I thought you were going to say your 10 copies.
Just my 10-inch vinyl. I was a little broke this month, so I ended up only getting the vinyl record. I really wanted to get the shirt and record combo, but the bank was like, yeah, no. So even though I have told my wife many and many times that if I don't support my bands that I like, they're all going to starve to death, and she doesn't want that on her conscience.
Yeah, that's right. You just rather, don't want those bands to starve to death. Let, your kids can starve to death instead.
Yeah, for sure. They'll get over it.
That's okay. Why don't we go to what we've been listening to this week, since Vildhjarta is such a short...
You could do that.
Yeah, let's do that,
Yeah,
so I can remember my damn ending.
Yay! Good call.
So what is your album of the week, Geoff?
Oh, my album of the week is Among the Amorphous by the Interbeing. And I think that might be a repeat for me, but I fucking love these guys. And since we kind of hinted on Industrial December, these guys got a bit of an industrial metal vibe to them. So I thought I'd throw that out there for people to get prepped and ready for the month of December, which will be right around the corner after we have a ton of awesome guests on. What about you, Dan? What you got, since you're sneaking on your phone?
I've been listening to From Enslavement to Obliteration by Napalm Death.
Nice.
I got that record when I was in Indianapolis, and have been jamming it ever since. It's not very long, so just little 1-minute grindcore songs, but lyrics are really on point, and that's what I'm here for. So that's heavily recommended. Pretty much anything by Napalm Death. It really doesn't matter which album you get. The lyrics are cool, and the music all sounds the same. So it's all good.
I have been all guns blazing all week long. Painkiller by Judas Priest.
Ooh.
Which the more I listen to, the more I realize that they basically wrote 13 of the same song and just said whichever one takes off, that's the single.
Pretty much. It's the album title.
100%. And on that note, this has been episode 35 of Discography Discussion. Thank you for listening. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at discussmetal. Subscribe to our podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts, including Google Play, iTunes, and Stitcher. Visit discussmetal.com for all things discography discussion, and please send questions and comments to danandjoeshow@gmail.com. If you are not a patron, you can become one at patreon.com/discussmetal. We have some sweet perks. And Geoff wants your money.
Give me your money!
Yeah, it was just one of those things where it's like I listened to the band for a few seconds. I was like, okay, cool. And then I got like an hour in and I'm like, oh shit, I'm done. Fuck, I'm done.